There's a lot of weaving to this tapestry, guys. This is just one of many things.
Where are we going to go next, I wonder?
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hi everyone!
Hello.
Look who this is.
Hello again!
We said that we had a special guest, and we had the specialist of guests. I know that quite a few of you actually called out who it was. It's Rebecca.
Yay! I'm really excited to be back around the campfire in the summer because I was needing that heat last time.
Yeah. And last time the fire was blue.
And if you don't mind, I'd like it to be blue again.
It's a summer blue.
Oh wait, I did that. You've got to do it. Sorry.
Okay.
It doesn't work when I do it.
Yeah, okay.
What? Every time. How's she do? We always try. We like fiddle with the dials and stuff. We're like, where's the blue?
So since I've last been here, it has been kicking off on ohno.
Yeah.
You got a lot of subscribers now.
And we now have an expanded universe as well.
I've watched.
Yeah.
The JDU.
Yeah. When are you going to start making branded wine from the soil episode?
This is why. Okay. This is why Rebecca's who she is. She's gonna take this place to a new height.
Start selling spooky wine. Spooky wine for you and for you.
Does anyone want to buy spooky soil wine? If you do,
Have it on the fire, couldn't we?
that's what you are.
Perfect in time for Christmas.
You want to read out a story?
Yes. So I think we all know why we're here. Why we're here? We are here for Poseidon Part 2. Break.
Break. I love it.
That's a really cool name.
That's amazing.
Even in his dreams, Eric hated himself. There was never a moment's break. When he dreamed of Alice with her strawberry blonde hair framing her heart-shaped ivory face, the bruises and the scrapes would start appearing one by one in stop motion. Her eyes would go from crystal blue to stormy grey. Tears would stream down her face and pool at his feet. She would run away, splashing water up her bare legs as she made her hasty escape. He would run after her, of course. He would scream he was sorry. He didn't mean to. He loved her more than he could bear, and he was afraid that he would lose her. He would scream that he was sick, that he couldn't help himself. He wouldn't take that shit anymore. He would stop. He would quit for good this time. He could. He knew he could. But she was never there to listen. She would never be there again. He would spend the rest of his days trying to open mismatched doors down a waterlogged corridor, but they were always locked and he would never find her. Eventually, he would wake up feeling a sinking sense of shame and regret. He would spend another 9 years and 11 months in jail. Alice would have a new life by the time he saw her again, if he ever saw her again. Tonight, like most others, he had glimpsed his wife in his dreams. He was here again, splashing through the dimly lit hall. The doors were, as always, locked. Intricately carved wooden doors, rusty steel doors, and ancient stone doorways all existed side by side. It never made any sense. But tonight, something was different. Something was off. Tonight, Eric heard a far-off pounding. This was new. As he sloshed forward, the sound grew louder. The walls began to pulse and shake, sending ripples of vibrations through the water along the passage. The sound got louder and louder until it was almost deafening. It was a heavy bass boring through his skull, not unlike a night at one of the illegal warehouse raves he had attended in his youth. Only this time, he had the feeling that what was waiting for him wasn't an electric rush of drugs through his veins, but something colder, something darker. Eric began to see the end of the hallway for the first ever time. It was a 7-foot waterfall, cascading, foaming liquid to the floor. Suddenly, as he took one step closer, the thudding bass stopped. His ears rang and his head was fuzzy from the missing beat. The water seemed to take on an eerie emerald glow. It was silent. Too silent. Eric could see his breath forming a vapor cloud in front of him, and he wrapped his arms around himself, shivering. Icicles began to form on the edges of the water around him, making gut-twisting crackle and pop sounds. The freeze crept towards him as he moved forward towards the gushing water, and as he approached, the plume froze mid-air, halting him in his tracks. He had to get through, but what could he do now? He knew he had to, he just had to. He balled his tattooed hands into fists, a gesture so familiar, but a gesture that he had sworn never to replicate ever again. Now was not the time for reflecting, though. The pounding sound had begun again on the other side of the ice wall. He smashed his knuckles into the ice, unsure of what hurt more, the hard slam or the biting cold, but very aware of both senses sending a searing dagger of pain through his body. He smashed until his knuckles bled. He smashed them to the bone. He kicked and punched and elbowed and butted until he crashed through the thick ice. A shard scraped against his head. A trickle of blood ran down his forehead. Then, standing before him was a man, or what his mind perceived as a man, but truly it was much more complex. He had silver grey skin and piercing blue eyes. He was entirely naked, aside from a large, rusting iron trident. The man's eyes fixed upon Eric, and in an instant he thrust his three-headed spear through the mortal's gut. It slid through him like he was butter. His blood froze the moment it seeped from the wound, creating an icy red plume on which his body rested as it twitched and then fell still. Just before Eric lost all sense of who he was and what it meant to die, he caught one last glimpse of electric eyes. They were still staring back at him as he awoke, gasping for air in Cell D of Fanshaw's prison, North Dakota. Water. Eric was drenched. At first he thought he was still dreaming. He blinked. The light burn of two bright eyes followed him behind the blackness of his closed eyelids. It took him several breaths to realize he was not asleep and that the gushing sound he had heard in the distance was very real. He peeled back his drenched sheet and put his feet to the floor. Definitely water. About an inch deep. He heard the faint sounds of alarms clanging and looked out beyond his bars to see the nightlights flickering across the horseshoe mezzanine that housed his cell. He got up and waded to the front of his cage, instinctively trying to slide it open. Miraculously, the bars gave. The electrics must be shot, he thought, which didn't seem too much of a stretch considering the state of the prison. That, or he was still dreaming. New, but also possible. He sloshed his way to the balcony that overlooked the usually well-guarded atrium below. Holy fucking shit. Eric recoiled. Bodies were piled one on top of each other down into the center of the floor. Some were grotesquely missing the tops of their skulls. Others had their eyes pulled straight out from their sockets. Red water sloshed through the macabre scene, coming from three devastated gashes in a large and now irreparably damaged water pipe. It took all of his might not to crumble, not to fold into a ball and wait until he was inevitably murdered in whatever brutal way had caused the rest of his prison mates to meet their end. But, like in his dreams, he thought of strawberry blonde hair in the wind. It didn't make any sense to him, especially now, but it was like he could smell his wife's shampoo, warm and wet with a hint of citrus and mint, as if just freshly lathered in the shower. Alice! Was she here? If she was, he had to go. He had to move. He slipped barefoot along the wet metal floor, holding the drenched banister as he made a way down the steel grate stairs. Would it hear him? Would it come for him next? What was it? He had seen a prison break just once and it looked nothing like this. Why was he the only one with a pulse for as far as the eye could see, and how much longer would his rancid heart keep beating in this place? Nothing made sense. He reached the bottom of the stairs and he saw the bars that usually separated the inmates from the guard offices were, through a stroke of luck, open too. Or maybe it wasn't luck. Maybe it was a trap. He had no choice but to splash forward. It was the only way out. One more corridor, just one more hall of doors and dark rooms. Except that one room had its lights firmly on. The water was deeper here, up to his knee. What he suspected were the bodies of guards lay partially submerged in the murk, but he did not stop to investigate. The light got closer. Eric realized there was a face staring out through the glass window. He pushed on, catching a sight in his peripheral vision that would haunt him for the rest of his days. The head of a man that he had eaten breakfast with for almost every morning for 2 years. He was being held by the hair like a lantern on a dark night by a prison officer with a sick smile. Eric didn't fully turn to look, but perhaps he should have. Perhaps it is better to stare horror in the face rather than push it to the edges of your mind, where it has the uncanny ability to creep down your spine and around the folds of your ribcage and through the gaps, permeating poison into your heart when you least expect it. But Eric kept walking. He walked to the end of the hall to a door under a blinking fire exit sign. Only the door underneath was not one he recognized. 3 thick bolts, a chain, and a deadlock. Eric's hands trembled as he worked the door open, but open it did. Out into the open, out into the parking lot, and out into the world. Eric didn't have time to enjoy his first breath of freedom or smell the pouring rain on the hot pavement, because what greeted him was a scene of apocalyptic chaos. Cars smashed into cars, a couple of bicycles strewn on the ground, and stray shoes with no feet in them. Eric made his way through the rain to a yellow Mini with its doors wide open that looked unharmed, save from a missing wing mirror. The engine was still running. He could hear it and he could certainly smell it. The keys were still in the lock. The wiper blades were working overtime. Eric didn't even shut the door as he sped away from what could only have been described as the 7th circle of hell, leaving the festering smell of death behind him. He drove for exactly 25 minutes until flashing lights in the car rearview mirror pulled him out of his haze. A green van beeped angrily and sped to overtake him. Eric was jolted from his trance, realizing his jaw was locked and his knuckles were white from gripping the wheel so hard. He shut the still open door and pulled over to the side of the road. He let out a long breath. The slamming of his heart and heavy thuddings of the raindrops on the tin roof syncopated in a disconcerting discord. What the living hell had just happened? A buzzing broke through his thoughts. He looked across to the passenger seat and saw a phone in a glittery pink case lighting up next to him. Dave! Whoever Dave was, Eric did not know or care. He waited until the buzzing stopped and then he greedily grappled for the device. It had been a couple of years, but he still knew what to do. Oh my god. But wait, a passcode? No. As Eric held the phone to the light, he noticed a smear across the greasy screen in the form of a Z shape. Worth a go. And he was in. Alice. He had to know where Alice was. Had she changed her name? Had she deleted her social media? Where was she? Alice Cronus. All of his answers came at once. They say that love is a 4-letter word. So too is dead. The words flashed across the screen, altering the course of the universe forever. His wife, his love, his life. She was dead. Eric turned the key in the ignition once more.
What? Oh. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
do you like that?
Brutal.
You know, I loved it. I loved it being from Eric's perspective as well. Is it bad to say that I kind of like him?
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, he's not a nice man, but...
He's not a nice bloke. He's done some awful things, but...
I feel like this is like seeing two sides of the story, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
He has got redeeming qualities, but I guess that's whenever you portray someone through their own eyes, even if they're like a monster, it's hard to not relate to them somewhat more, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I felt like, I was right there with him.
Right there with Eric. I know, well, he's seen some stuff now,
Whew.
but is he still dreaming?
But that's what I mean. I love the dream sequence. I love the way that it slipped from a very vivid dream sequence into the water again, into the prison. Like the whole thing was very, like Danny, the whole thing was very cinematic.
Good.
Yeah. Great job on that.
Thank you.
So, should we talk about the connections?
Should we talk about the universe? So it's set in the prison, obviously from the cellmate.
Yes.
And the guy that's gone on the loose here
Yes.
is the remaining officer who just basically, seemingly, literally murdered everyone, but for some reason not Eric, and we don't know what reason that is yet.
I love it.
Oh.
So that ties in the cellmate to Poseidon.
But did you notice the other?
I did.
Yeah.
The doors.
Yeah. Right.
The doors.
Right.
Poseidon. Maybe that's the name that we know him as, but this kind of
Is he an old one?
Oh.
100%.
Is he an old
100%
one?
an old one.
Maybe he has a familiar too.
Maybe he does.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Mr. Crazy Fanshawe, prison man.
Oh, he's like badged and bust out.
What if Eric's his familiar?
Oh.
And he doesn't know it. Maybe it's like a
Yeah.
familiar's creation story.
Yeah. Could be. And did you
So
notice the
dope.
door from the nanny as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it almost felt like the prison was like the site of like some kind of ethereal apocalypse. You know what I mean? Like the worlds had like shifted into like the same kind of. I don't know. I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah. Something's gone on, and we don't truly know. Something much bigger than just your usual prison break.
Well, it reminds me a bit of Jack's one, We Live Here. We talked a bit in that video at the end about this felt a bit like it was like ground zero of an apocalypse happening, you know? I think I said that like whenever these stories start, it's always, you know, scientists walking into a war room being like, sir, we've got 500 cases all across Philadelphia, like, but these stories feel like you're witnessing the start
Yeah.
of it. You're right
In
there,
media
ground,
res.
ground zero, yeah.
And this is North Dakota, but obviously Alice, as we know, was in New England,
England,
so
she
he's
was.
got a journey ahead of him. And who's Dave calling?
And who's Dave?
And whose car is he in?
Yeah.
Oh. I love if Dave's just like some random guy who gets dragged along with a story. And it's
Hey,
just like
Dave.
a complete innocent bystander. He ends up like staring some old ones in the face at the end of it. At the end of this saga.
Sorry, got my girlfriend's phone.
I could see it being a recurring theme in that story. There's like this guy Dave just happens to always be there. He's always getting knocked around, smashed, like
Just
clawed
looking.
by things. He's just like, and Dave was clawed at the last second. Like,
All right, Dave's now a thing. Dave's now.
Dave.
yeah.
Dave.
Everyone knows Dave, right?
I also really love the switch from sort of seeing this horror, people with their eyeballs torn out, to just having a quick little daydream about shampoo.
Yes.
It was just like, okay. I was like,
He could smell it.
yeah, but it was like
Citrus
really
and
sort of
mint.
like lathering in the shot, and it's like people like, oh, like around it. Yeah, I like that. It was.
Yeah, you painted a very vivid picture. It was
Yeah.
it was prosaic. It was very beautiful. He blended the abstract well as well, which is I always tend to find a difficult thing to do. It was very well done, Rebecca.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I love that.
I hope you all enjoyed part 2, and
Great.
I mean, it lends itself for many, many, many parts. So
You heard it here first,
we'll
guys.
see.
There's a lot of weaving to this tapestry, guys. This is just one of many
Where are they
things.
going to go next? I wonder.
Where's
Well,
it going to go next?
for dinner.
Yeah,
So-
we have to wrap this up.
Yeah, we have to go for dinner.
But we're going to do a score. How did we do it last time? I don't remember.
The average between you two, you both gave me a score.
What did we give you?
each. I think it was like 7.3. It wasn't the most scary.
Oh, 7.3.
But like, it was more about the story, I guess.
That was early days.
That was early
We're running
days.
out of numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
The scores have got inflated now. Like,
Yeah, there's
the economy's crashed.
There's a
The
lot of
scores-
score inflation.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
scores
wanna,
is
like-
natural inflation in
Yeah.
scores now.
I don't want to sweet talk the judges, but I will say this may be the highest body count of any. Not that, that's necessary.
There was a lot of body count.
Yeah.
There was a lot of body count. I'm going through my head what the pros and cons are. You go first, Daniel.
Well, I don't want to influence yours. I mean,
No. Yeah, your name comes before in the alphabet.
All right, I'm gonna give it a 7.9. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I was going to give it a flat 8.
Thank you, I'll
Yeah.
take it.
I was going to give it your first flat 8.
Yeah, I'll take
Yeah.
an
It's a flat 8. Let's get out of it.
8. 8 for Rebecca Felgate.
Yeah.
Do we average that? Do we take the? I'm bad at maths.
I'm just going to take an 8,
Take the
actually,
8.
to be honest.
Take
Yeah,
the 8.
eight's better.
Take the 8. Take the 8.
Take the 8. Woo! Alright, well,
What did you guys think?
yeah, let me know. What do you think's happening? Like, A, who's Dave?
Oh,
Yeah,
Dave,
that's the
this is
real
biggest-
key.
that's the biggest
Hashtag who's Dave.
Yeah. That's what it's all been leading up to.
Just a mysterious man called Dave, and how he. He's like, I've had the weirdest day today.
He witnesses all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, if you have a story that you'd like to send to HowNo, please send it to this email address over here, hownostories.com. The theme for this month, which should be still this month, is radio.
Oh.
So you all chose a word on the live stream, and it was radio. So we've had quite a few entries coming through. It's trickling through. I'm hoping it'll all be right away.
So 1,000 to 1,500 words.
Yes.
We really appreciate the really long stories, and they are great, but we got to read a bunch of these out on live stream to keep it 1,000, 1,500, and make sure it's about radio. Make sure you send it into the email.
There's a song in ohno as well, so maybe that can be playing on the radio.
Perhaps, yeah. There's someone can incorporate that, yeah.
Wow.
Okay, well, until next time.
So much for stopping by.
Oh, thank you for having me, lads.
Yeah, make sure, I want to see lots of nice comments to Rebecca and asking her to come back, because we really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
All right.
Well, we've got to blow the fire out.
Oh.
No,
It worked.